I kindly ask the three speakers of the session to join me here so that Danfield, Rastislav Hudák, and Gianluca Drago, if they want to join me, so the panel strength, so we can stay here together. So thank you for the invitation, and thank you to all of you for being here. This is the first session of the conference, so dedicated to explore what is going on in the PHAIDRA universe all around the world. And so first I want to thank the staff of the Digital Library in Padua. So I'm an historian of science, and so I'm the scientific director of the Botanical Museum that you can visit in the other side of the Botanical Garden. And I have the chance and the privilege to have a PHAIDRA experience, so to speak, because I have the privilege to work on the historical archive of the Botanical Garden and the project of publishing all these documents, materials, so working side by side with the librarians and enhancing this amazing heritage. So, and the fact that here are two vice rectors, so for the heritage side, but also the dissemination and information side is very important in order to demonstrate what is going on also at University of Padua, but of course not only, all around the world. So the work that we can do together on this kind of heritage, historical heritage, in the case of Padua, using platforms as PHAIDRA, and so with the citizen, the scholarship, and also people in the field of heritage library. So I'm very much, so I feel the honor to chair this section. So this first section is dedicated to the latest adventures, as sound written in the program. And so we start with Danfield, with Rastislav Hudák. I hope to pronounce the name correctly. So with PHAIDRA's latest adventures. So PHAIDRA has been in production for over 15 years, continuously evolving to meet new challenges. And today, advancements in technical infrastructure are occurring at an unprecedented pace, and steady growth in community engagement and adoption reaches beyond academic institutions. So in the talk, Rastislav will explore the latest progress within this community, highlight a key milestone in software evolution, and share the vision in the long-term future. And Rastislav Hudák is the head of the data management team in the ET support for research department at the University of Vienna. And he has been actively contributing to the development of PHAIDRA since 2011. And beyond his professional pursuits, he devotes himself to the study of nonlinear happiness. So, good. Please, the floor is yours. I think you can use the podium and use that. So the floor is yours.
Thank you. Hello. So my name is Rastislav or Rasta. Who knows me? Microphone.
No.
This one.
No, it's okay.
It's okay. It's work. You hear me?
Maybe closer.
Like this?
Yeah.
Better? Okay. From the University of Vienna, from the computer center where PHAIDRA was born more than 15 years ago. And because we saw there are so many new people coming to this conference, we thought we are not going to just talk about what's latest, but also introduce PHAIDRA more generally. So PHAIDRA is a project. It is, first and foremost, it is an acronym for Permanent Hosting, Archiving, Indexing of Digital Resources and Assets. It is a repository, it is a software, it's also a community. And for many of you, it's also a service. Oh, right. And We have currently about 25, I think, institutions which host PHAIDRA themselves, or we host it for them. Those are mostly universities, I think, but there are also...
Maybe you can try with this, maybe it works better.
Is it okay?
Let's try.
Hello? So, I'm not going to sing though. So, but there are also some institutions lately which are actually archives, like governmental institutions. There are also NGOs using PHAIDRA, so it's not just academia. Here's a list just for the reference. Now, PHAIDRA began, the development began in 2007, and the first version was there in 2008. It was based on Fedora repository, which then is going to tell you something more about, but it was the version 3. And the technical implementation was, it was a Perl front-end with something like APIs as well, but not really. And for the Fedora enthusiast, we used a lot of disseminators. And this is basically the schematics of how it was looking like. It was really like a monolith application with user interface based around Fedora, because Fedora does not have a user interface where you can easily upload objects, or you need to also define your own metadata scheme. So this was all done in the first year, which was quite a lot already. The reason was, of course, we had some data which we wanted to store. We also wanted to do some data management, so you need metadata about the data. You need to some way of creating some structure in the repository, collections or a tree structure, and then you, of course, want to make it available. So we need persistent identifiers, maybe bitstream preservation, so that we can download the same thing that we uploaded 10 years ago. And user needs some way to browse, needs some way to search, and if it has no idea what is inside, also maybe to discover. Then, of course, download, view the objects, maybe even without downloading. Some objects are not public, so we need authorization, authentication, and because it's a repository, the user is not only a human being necessarily, it can be a machine, so we need the search engine optimizations, we need to think about controlled vocabularies so that there is so it nicely integrates with other sources. And of course we need OIE PMH interface, because there are all these harvesters like Europeana, OpenAir, OIE, EBSCO, Primo, there's a lot of them. And since everybody has a different idea of what metadata should look like, we need all of this crossflow to learn object metadata, for instance, Dublin Core, of course, European data model, data site, and so on. There are even more than one versions of Dublin Core. And as it expanded, we did not only want it to search in metadata, but also in the content of the uploaded objects. So full text was added. For the discovery, the people would like to be able to create their own pages about the content. And as for viewing the objects, we added a streaming server for videos, TripleIF image server for images, 3D viewer, 3D pipeline that converts 3D objects to some viewable form, replay web to be able to view an archive version of a web page. And it did not stay so easy on the ingest side either, because the users wanted to have, were coming with requests for new metadata fields, uploading a lot of objects at once. They had workflows they wanted to simulate when working with the repository, so they need templates for the submit forms. They need completely different submit forms, which then would grow into separate UIs like institutional repository or open educational resources, media libraries. And even here, the user can be a machine, so it could be another repository. So we need some support for other metadata formats inside, mappings from catalogs, a lot of import scripts have been created in those 15 years. And of course, there's an API, so we can integrate all kinds of systems like archives, thesis server, digitization software, research information system, campus system, and so on. So it sort of grew like not exactly like a plant. I think it wasn't that organized, but anyway, there was just the technical side of what's really inside the software. Of course, there's a lot of other things to figure out on the technical level or on the non-technical level, like what is even word archiving, under which terms people are putting the data into the repository, what happens when they leave the organization, and so on. In any case, it was clear that this wasn't going to be enough. So as the years were passing by, we replaced this with something like this. And actually everything has changed in PHAIDRA, except that Fedora still stays at the heart of it. Except inside Fedora, everything changed as well. So there is nothing in the software actually in the whole solution except the data, which we hope are still the same, but everything else has changed. We are currently migrating, or mostly already migrated to the newest version of Fedora. We stay with it because it provides some very important functionality. It's a software that's based on standards and creates a standardized way the files are organized on the file system. Very important for the future, and maybe even enables us to allow to skip migrations if other repositories adopts this file structure and would understand it without having to migrate. So this would be somewhat more readable schematics of how PHAIDRA functions today. So there's Fedora, there is an API in front of it, and then the various front-end and tools work either directly with the API, or there is like a component library which we can use when developing the tools or UIs to avoid developing things like editing metadata, viewing metadata, creating relationships on objects again and again. And I will give some examples of those UIs or those tools later. The whole solution is now Dockerized, so really easy to set up and try out. If anybody wants, there is a GitHub page. The link would be there at the end of the presentation. And there are instructions of how one can try this out. There's like a semi-technical knowledge needed for this, but not much. And this is how it would look like when it starts. So there is a front end which has a light and a dark variation. This is a typical object detail view of an object in PHAIDRA. So we have some viewer. In this case, it's a PDF. So there's a PDF viewer. We see all the metadata, persistent identifiers, button to download the object. And if I'm logged in, I would also see links to metadata editor, to specifying access right, or creating relationships, creating new versions, and so on. This is the submit form. It's about third or fourth version that we already created. It has this first section where there are fields which are mandatory, so that when I really want to get things uploaded as quickly as possible, nothing stands in my way. But if I'm a librarian and I want to get into every accordion and read every tooltip, I can spend a lot of time in the submit form and open all of those sections and add metadata fields. You can also create templates here and define the access rights. Import metadata from other sources as well, meanwhile. The metadata standard also changed. We created a new one, which is based on linked data. And one of the interesting features of it is that you can have those layers of metadata where There is a metadata about the digital object, but also metadata about the digitized objects in case you want to use the same fields in those layers so that they don't mix up, like, for instance, when it was created, when the digital object was created, when the original object was created, and so on. This is a basic life cycle of how the metadata works within these components. So you have fields which you can put together into a form. That form would create the metadata schema which is needed for the repository. And when the scheme is read out of the repository, you can again use those components to edit the metadata or to view them. This is an example of another UI. So you can see the submit forms run differently. There's a lot of steps you go through where you can import from DOI or from a CRIS system. You can check journal rights, submission policies via Sherpa Romeo and so on. And we use the components here to not re-implement everything. So it could be developed relatively quickly. When we can also use it in tools like when we are staging digital books, the upload of digital books, where we create an application where you can put together the structure of the digital book. But when you define the metadata, again, you can use the components and not re-implement everything from scratch. Here's the actual update of what we are planning to do in the near and future, or in the next year or two. Some of these has actually been already done since I last talked about it. So we have the full text search now for the PDF. We also implement the full text search in OCR, in digital books for the Alta format. We integrated the handle server. We are testing it now. And there are some other things that we plan to do. For instance, rights management, I think that will be the next one, where you have in PHAIDRA the rights about the access to those digital objects, which are saved in the digital object themselves. But there are also another kind of rights, which are rights telling us what a user can do in PHAIDRA. Can everybody upload? Can everybody restrict access rights in all the ways, or only on some? Can there be something like a curated submit so that someone has rights to actually make the object visible? Can people edit other objects, other people's metadata, and so on? So this is something that we are working on. Book operation, preserving user data so that we know more about the user in case he leaves the organization. That's going to be the topics that we are going to deal with next. We haven't been just working on the repository. There was a lot of work from our friends from Age of Peers, helping us build the community, actually starting this conference. I think this is the fourth or fifth. Is this a fourth or fifth conference, PHAIDRAcon? Fifth? So that's nice. And we have a community page. We also have a podcast. If anybody has something he wants to say about open knowledge, you can go and contact us, and this would be a channel where you can talk about it. Here is some basic links. So there is our web page, our GitHub, our community where you can ask questions, or you can just write an email. Thank you for listening to this. If you have any questions.
So thank you. Maybe since we have enough time, if there are any questions now, or we can do a debate at the end, but if some urgent matters raise. So, because I really, I'm working with a huge project of digitizing herbaria right now, and when I hear the word metadata, I immediately, but this is the challenge also of programs, of platforms, as PHAIDRA, but many others, of making, and this is my question for you, making metadata accessible. So this is, I think, the most important in linking what we do with heritage or publication, so PDFs, and making accessible. So I want to ask you, from your point of view, about these aspects. So finding the metadata, so in these standards that, of course, we have with library, archive, and museums collection, but what is the challenges of a platform like PHAIDRA, in your opinion, in making more accessible this information connected to this?
So accessible is actually, I haven't seen this as a big problem, because actually you cannot make metadata inaccessible in PHAIDRA. They're always accessible and visible, and you can download them. The challenge is really to make them interoperable, to create metadata which others can understand as easily as possible, especially other repositories and harvesters and so on. And this was always a challenge, because you have many metadata standards, and when people are thinking about making something better, they always create a new metadata standard, so that's not improving the situation. So we got inspired by the linked data movement and the way they sort of combine metadata formats freely, so that for each field you'll take a field from another metadata format which people would most probably know. So if you're talking about I don't know, author, you can take a role from the MARC standard. If you want to express what is the first name and last name of the author, you tell schema first name, schema last name. I think we'll still have to see how well this works in the future, because the way it interoperates is still relies mostly on this crosswalk. So if another repository comes and say we would like to harvest your content so that it's visible on our portal, we need to talk about what format they support and then provide it. But we are entering the future of AI and much more clever way the machines would understand the metadata as they are, without having to be super formal about everything. So I think it's going to improve in the future.
And if I may, also in putting in dialogue these different kind of digital objects and so metadata information. So what about PHAIDRA and library archives, museum collections? So do you think that this platform would be in the future? So
this is actually where we want to expand, so to say, so that we have collections. We also have museums. I think Padua is actually further, because they already support some metadata format. Is Yuri there? Yuri, I think he would be able to tell more about it. But that's basically the community where we want to get more involved, because now we are focused on libraries, research data, but there are these other communities and archives which we entered, not with PHAIDRA, but with other software recently, and where we just learning what this EAD and how archivists think differently about metadata and their assets. So
Yeah, I remember when we worked together, so with the digital library librarians about this project of digitizing the archive, the historical archive of the Botanic Garden. So we worked in PHAIDRA, but together with archivists of the historical archive of the university, and it's been an amazing project, but the challenges of speaking different languages is there, and but so we succeed, so it's possible. And so, okay, so thank you, Rastislav. Maybe we can. So